It's a time for pick it from China. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. It's awesome that you're tuning in. In today's video we're going to do a chit chat about the X9 Pro. So this is a 2.4G wireless controller gamepad. But what is interesting, the thing comes with EmuElec 4.3. However, we have seen all kinds of, let's say, plug-and-play solutions, way too many, but they are getting really cheap now, and it makes it even more interesting than ever. So in here, finding the dongle, they have the configuration of 2 controllers and 1 dongle. I love this. However, when it comes to, let's say, the dongle and the controller, yep, finally they are getting rid of those PlayStation 2 knockoff controllers that are smelling horrible and chemical. So this thing is so much better, and the overall, let's say, feel, they are like on PlayStation 5 and knockoff, but one of the very appealing things is that it comes with a very nice D-pad. The analog sticks are feeling great, and it's still not like a super like premium controller, but it's so much better than the other ones that we've reviewed many times before. In here we're finding everything that we're going to be needing, even an extension HDMI, because this thing is actually a dongle. Yeah, so you're going to be plugging it in, but it's going to be way too big for most televisions, or at least like a monitor. You can use this thing in everything that has an HDMI input. So the SD card they're using, this is in general problem. There are no brands, and these get corrupted very often. So I will recommend making a backup of this. So you're just plugging in the micro USB into your, let's say, television, and this is actually how it gets power. Plug it in HDMI and you're ready to go. Of course, don't forget the USB dongle. You're going to be plugging it in here and you're ready. That's it. That's the only thing that we're going to be doing, and let's plug it in. But first, let's do a chit chat about the instruction manual. So what is interesting about this, the toilet paper manual deluxe, is the same shenanigans that we have seen many times before. So overall quick explanation about the product and everything else. Some of the manuals are quite decent, but some of them make no sense whatsoever. But let's do a quick overview of it, because there's not like a lot of information in here. But this is the configuration that we're going to be using. You can see the extension cord goes into the HDMI of the monitor itself. This is just a monitor with speakers. And then for the power, we're going to be using a 5-volt normal charger or phone charger. No fast charger is actually needed. If you have like a deluxe monitor, some of them will have a USB, so you can plug this thing in your monitor. However, you need to take note that the power from the USB of your monitor TV cannot be enough. So it sometimes gives like boot problems. So 5-volt charger is something I would recommend doing. Okay, I do wonder, can we use rechargeable batteries? Okay, so the space in the compartment is wide enough, so that is absolutely convenient. But let's do a quick overview of the menu. So what is quite a little bit of a downside that every single time we're going to be seeing Ken when choosing a different platform. Pressing start will give us the settings over here with EmuElec. So we're having all kinds of like signal output. It has been set to 720p. We can switch it out if you want to, all the way to 1080p depending on the monitor. But this is just purely for, let's say, the main menu, nothing to do with the emulators itself. So start boot up as the emulation station. There is nothing much we can actually showcase here. Show RetroArch FPS, so that's going to be convenient for the video review. So going back, it will need a little bit of time of configuring. You can see that actually it asks me like, you want to switch to the resolution. Not going to be doing that. So information, it runs on 4x3 EmuElec. The dongle seems to be in 26 temperature of degrees, so that's not bad at all. Aim logic, the S905X3 comes also paired with the Mali G31. So the configuration is not like the biggest baddest out there. However, it's not like say super bad. Unlocking UI mode, enter the code to unlock the current UI mode. Yeah, and that is a little bit of a downside that they're doing this, so there's no way of reconfiguring anything. I didn't see anything in the manual with this one. However, so I think they're also doing this so people can't mess up anything else, because out of the box I'm guessing it needs to be working just fine. But let's do a quick peek inside one of the, let's say, game lists. And here you can just see that we can go to another part over there. So pressing left and right, up and down, we're going to be to the next game, A and B. We're going to be forward for A and back for B. And that's actually it. So we do have N64 on here, so it's going to be looking quite nice for emulation when it comes to options. However, for performance with the S905X3, we will have some limitations. But let's get into some gameplay. Start off with some arcade. So I mentioned before in different videos that when it comes to arcades, yeah, Killer Instinct, Tekken MAME, there are a couple of, let's say, systems or games that will not run on this. However, we have like thousands of classic games that run perfectly on a box like this. You can see in the right top corner, this thing runs full 60 FPS, no problem whatsoever. However, I did notice in the past with some game sticks that they reconfigured the emulator wrong. And that was a little bit of a downside. Also, I do notice some screen tearing going on. But so far, so good. So moving to the handhelds, I just wanted to see how it is. So unfortunate, we do have normally some options for bezels, and they would be absolutely amazing with this because we have widescreen shenanigans with freaking like devices that had like a tiny display on the original hardware. So this looks absolutely blurry. It's like not going to be an overall great experience. The emulation performance, there is actually nothing to complain here. In the Neo Geo list, I did notice something very cool. So they made extra folders inside of the list, and that is kind of convenient. So let's say you want to play a Metal Slug game, you can just actually open up the list and having all kinds of games in here. So that's kind of nice. Another thing I did notice is that when it comes to some of the arcade games, like Neo Geo, I have this idea there was some weird filter over it. Or we have like pixel filters, it's more like a smooth filter, because this is not how it normally looks. Another thing I find very convenient is the controller. This plays absolutely amazing. So moving to some more demanding stuff like the Naomi system. You can just see that it struggles, 53 frames per second. And I think this cannot even be, let's say, fixed with a different emulator if we had the option. This is just the device, the S905X3, that is not capable of running this on full 60 FPS. You can see even a dip for 43. If you don't see the frames per second and you're not really known, let's say it's a 60 FPS speed itself, you will not notice it at all. But you can see when there was a lot of stuff going on the screen, including the power-ups, it dips all the way to 53. Most of the time you can sometimes hear it in the audio. What a craziness. But let's step it up with the Sega Dreamcast and some Dead Alive. The reason why is very simple, because I just wanted to see how far we can push the Dreamcast part of it. But with a game that is really demanding, you can see it even dips farther to the 36 frames per second. So the S90503 or the X3 is not going to be compatible with every single game when it comes to Sega Dreamcast or the Naomi system. Okay, well, another thing I just wanted to check out is how the D-pad responds, but man, it responds very nicely. But before me, I'm getting into this super negative flow of me complaining about everything that doesn't work. There's still a lot of stuff that actually works great. What I mentioned before, like most of the time with these game sticks, 8-bit, 16-bit runs perfectly. Where I did notice some of this like plug and play Sega sticks had a lot of issues with audio. This is not the case with, let's say, the game boxes that we have more power with. The over emulation is great. We still have this very strange filter over it, so it does look really authentic. I think they're doing this because it looks more fancy if you're going to be having this game stick plugged into like a big television. Let's get into some Master System, man. So Master System, I did a review of the full system, the original hardware, and where I didn't grow up with these things, I can tell you that the Master System is such an amazing machine for the time being. If you're still looking at the gameplay, this looks kind of good. Oh yeah. The first time I actually played this game was on the Super NES, so going back to the Master System, it is a step back of course, but the overall quality is not like super bad compared with the Super NES in many different ways. Oh. Bring on. Yeah. Did it. But let's move on to some more demanding stuff. Okay,
Welcome to the 6FFS.
Oh, the audio of Atomiswave. It's like 20 times louder than normal. So Atomiswave is going to be the same craziness like the Dreamcast. Not every single game will run perfectly on this. Man, that audio. So with the Nintendo DS, what you're actually going to be having is a very strange overall, let's say, experience. So we can switch with the two monitors between this massive screen. And of course, how bigger the screen, how better the overall, let's say, experience is. But for me, this is not the way I actually wanted to play these games. So you can just switch like that. Also, let's say, reverse them if you want to. The normal input controls will work just fine, like A, B, X, Y. But let's get into some gameplay. And if you want to get some 3DS going on, this is not going to be happening. So I think you should be happy if you get at least like an overall good gameplay experience with some NES games, where you can actually see that it is playable. So the L1, R1 are just mapped to the system. So we're going to be using the back buttons. So we have the option to press the right joystick. We can get into the menu, mess around with that if you want to. But so far, there is no actually other way to mess around. You can see use the stylus at the right by using the left joystick. So the configuration of the emulator itself is not bad at all, but it would be great to actually having only one screen. And I'm guessing they disable it, so we need to set it up in the emulator. But I just wanted to showcase some emulation performance, but that seems to be working just fine. The same with Game Advance widescreen shenanigans with a filter over it, but performance-wise they didn't mess up with the wrong emulator, running on a stable 60 FPS. At this moment I'm actually playing on a 24-inch screen. It looks kind of nice, but that has to do thanks to the filter itself. But so far this is what we're getting with overall emulation of the Game Boy parts, the color, you know. But the thing is with Game Boy Advance, where I think this is something that has a little bit of beneficial to the widescreen screen we're using, compared with, let's say, the Game Boy. Let me explain and show you what I mean. If you're going to get into the normal Game Boy, that system had a completely different aspect ratio of a screen. This looks just horrible. It's like superb, let's say, stretched to the maximum level. So yeah, when it comes to that, yeah, this is not going to be an overall fun experience when it comes to the screen resolution. Besides that, gameplay itself is great, works like a charm, no problem there. So having some PC Engine running perfectly on this, so in combination with some other 8-bit, 16-bit stuff, it's absolutely great. I love this. The problem, what I do notice that when getting into the more demanding stuff, this is not the system you want to actually buy. And I mean in particular when you're looking into, let's say, some N64, there we're going to be having a lot of problems. So these things are getting cheaper and cheaper now, so that makes it even more interesting if you want to just get into some 8-bit, 16-bit stuff. But let's get into N64 and show you what I mean when it comes to overall performance. So of course we're going to be choosing a very demanding game like the GoldenEye, and you can see it dips all the way to 30 frames per second. And that's a little bit unfortunate, so these sticks are just not capable of running some PlayStation Portable, N64 and many other more demanding systems. So with such a low frames per second, this is just unplayable. Yeah, don't mind me, I'm just looking into the controls. But it's kind of cool that we can use actually both of the joysticks. Oh, this is not the gameplay I wanted to showcase. Those guys are like freaking Terminators if you're going to put them on high in difficulty. However, normally what is kind of cool that we can play those basic games like Joyride. But you can see that it even struggles now, and I think this has to do because they're using the PSP emulator through RetroArch, and that is a problem where you're having this separate emulator set up. That runs most of the time way better. Another thing is how good is the overall resolution set to. Some of the, let's say, game boxes, they're setting it to 2 times resolution. But getting through the game, you can see that we're hitting sometimes 50 frames per second. And where a simple game like this doesn't even run perfectly on 60 FPS, it's not even, I think we don't need to bother checking out some other games that are more demanding. Think about on God of War or on Tekken. Haha! But we have reached the point that we can actually play PlayStation 1 on native resolution. It has been set to widescreen shenanigans, but you can just actually see getting into the game. It's just awesome that we can play these PlayStation 1 games now finally with a good controller. This is a very overall pleasant experience. So I did notice a lot of people love the PlayStation 1. We grew up with these things, some of them just experiencing them now. It's such a great system with so many hidden gems. You can just see on a simple game stick that doesn't even cost a lot of money. This runs just without any problem. 60 FPS full without any craziness going on. But after using the game stick for some time now, it's now hitting the 40 Celsius. Just wanted to showcase that, you know, these things can become really hot over actually going to be using it for a couple of hours. Alright, so let's open it up. I was messing around with my prior tool. The reason I wanted to open it up to showcase what is in the inside. So they do put a little bit of an effort in, but don't know exactly what they want to try to here. So there's a lot of, let's say, filth on my prior tool now, because they are using a pile of thermal paste. There's just this piece of metal in here. It's even wetter somehow. Don't know what's all going on this, but they are doing some weird shenanigans in here. So you can see they're putting a blob of thermal paste on the back of this device. But let's see if I can remove it from a shell. But the chipset is on the other side. So okay. So in the end, what they're actually doing over here is then having, let's say, dual, let's say, pieces of metal. So they're using one on the back over here. Why, I have no idea why they're doing that. But they're trying to give this thing a little bit better cooling. And this is for a good reason. I've been complaining a lot on these game boxes or these game sticks getting really hot and ending up breaking down. So what is interesting that this thing is like an X2 LPDDR3. So what you can see there, and there's nothing much especially to see EmuElec S95 X3. So they're doing a little bit better effort now. I must give them some kudos for that, for putting a little bit of more cooling in it. But if this is enough, I don't know. But one thing is for sure, I'm going to be cleaning up my desk over here because this is one filthy situation. The X9 Pro, there's actually nothing pro about it. However, when you're looking at the game stick, they are trying to improve it. So first of all, the cooling method is absolutely significantly better. And one of the things I found even more interesting is the controller. They should like give every single game stick, box, whatever, this particular controller, because this thing is absolutely great. So when you're looking at the D-pad, let's say, configuration, but also when it comes to the playability of many games, including fighting games. So yeah, the game stick, I think there's nothing much actually to improve here. The S95 X3 is maybe known already with, let's say, its performance. EmuElec is a great addition to it, but it's locked. So overall, I say they configured it quite nicely, but there is still a lot of stuff they should improve or just remove in combination with, say, the PlayStation Portable, the more demanding games, because that will not run on this, never is going to be running in the near future. Thank you all for watching. Let me know in the comments what do you think of the X9 Pro, and it will be great to see you in the next video.